Well, good afternoon and welcome. Welcome back, I think, for many of you from this morning. And it's good to have you here. I believe we're also live streaming this for some folks who were not able to be present. Of course, they can't vote, but they can, watch and listen. And what does that mean? Oh, we have two people already, online. So yay. All right. Good. Well, since it is 12:45, I will call our meeting to order and would like to invite you to reach into the pew rack and grab a book of common prayer. And we'll turn together to page 578. 578, the clean pages. Okay. It's all we want to get down in those clean pages. There are a lot of goodies in the prayer book we don't always take advantage of. That's good. So on page 578, we find a litany of thanksgiving for a church. And so we're going to let him pass by and then offer these prayers for our Church of St. Peter's. Let us thank God, whom we worship here in the beauty of holiness. Eternal God, the heaven of heavens cannot contain you, much less the walls of temples made with hands. Graciously receive our thanks for this place and accept the work of our hands offered to your honor and glory. For the Church Universal, of which these visible buildings are the symbol. For your presence, whenever two or three have gathered together in your name. For this place, where we may be still and know that you are God. For making us your children by adoption and grace, and refreshing us day by day with the bread of life. For the knowledge of your will and the grace to perform it. For the fulfilling of our desires and petitions as you see best for us. For the pardon of our sins, which restores us to the company of your faithful people. For the blessing of our vows and the crowning of our years with your goodness. For the faith of those who have gone before us and for our encouragement by their perseverance. For the fellowship of the Blessed Virgin Mary, Blessed Peter, and all your saints. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power, the glory, the victory, and the majesty. Yours, O Lord, is the kingdom. Thank you. Notice of our annual meeting has been published in accordance with our bylaws, and I'm happy to say, have a quorum of at least 50 confirmed communicants in good standing here today, so we're able to proceed. All communicants in good standing 16 years and older may vote in today's annual meeting. Some of you are saying, I wonder what a communicant in good standing is. Okay, well, I have the definition. It means you have received Holy Eucharist at least 3 times in the last 12 months. It's a fairly low bar, but that's what it means in Episcopal canons. So anyone can vote. Let me pause right here because I know we were distributing ballots, but just to be sure, did anyone enter without getting a slip of paper and a pencil if you need one. It looks like everybody did. Perfect. All right, so everybody has a ballot, and those who needed a pencil have that. There are no proxy votes permitted by St. Peter's Parish bylaws, and so we will conduct the voting among those present. Our parish bylaws ask the presider of this meeting to appoint a secretary. And so I've asked Beck Sullivan if she would take notes for us of today's minutes. I want to just take a moment at this before I proceed and then neglect it. Holly Kraus is now the clerk of the vestry and was out of town and not able to be here today. But I want to acknowledge her for the work she is doing for the vestry. And I want to acknowledge Shelley Hendershot, who's also out of town, but on a more permanent basis, because Shelley served faithfully for many years as the clerk of our vestry and just recently has moved to Michigan. And so I just want to use that moment to say a shout out there as well. Okay. The first item for business is the nomination and election of 4 vestry members to serve a 3-year terms. And the following persons were vetted and deemed qualified to serve by our vestry nominating committee. Those persons are, and I'll ask you to stand, those present to please stand, Bobby Goodman, and there you are, Bobby, and Reese Kerr, yeah, Reese, Celia Moore, and Brock Vaughn was not able to be here today, but he was at the early service this morning. Some of you saw me have an absolute failure to recall his name when I really, really needed to do so. But nevertheless, since the number of our nominees coincides with the number of open seats, is there a motion that we conduct the election by acclamation? I hear a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Those opposed with like sign. Hearing none, the slate is elected. I want to thank our outgoing vestry members. Kyle Conger, our senior warden, is graduating next month, and Kyle Davis. And I know I saw Kyle at the chili. Kyle, would you stand up if you're here? Maybe he's still helping tidy things up. So we can thank Kyle when you see Kyle later, Kyle Davis and Kyle Conger. And I also want to thank Bobby Goodman and Reese Kerr, because they have just completed partial terms. So I want to be very clear for the parish to be aware of this. They served partial terms as a result of 2 different vacancies at 2 different times. According to our parish bylaws, they are eligible to be elected by the parish, not just the vestry, to serve a full term. And both of them did 2 things. A, graciously agreed to keep on serving, which should be a little testimony for some of you that vestry service must not be that painful. You know, if they came back around for more, just saying. But number 2, I want you to know that they both recused themselves from participating in the nominating committee and said, if there is someone else who wants to serve, we will stand down. But if you need us, and it does not displace a parishioner who steps forward and wishes to serve, we will do so. And it was just the most honorable and decent way of handling that. So I'm thankful to the 2 of you. I also want to thank our youth vestry representative, Sarah Powell. Sarah actually completed 2 terms. The youth delegate is a non-voting delegate, but she served that 1-year term, 2 years. I don't think we have an appointee yet for this coming year, and that's not has not been unusual for us in recent years, but we will be working on that. It is, as I said, a non-voting position, so it does not need to be an elected position from this annual meeting. The next item for business is the nomination and election of delegates and alternates to serve at the Diocesan Convention. And we are directed by our bylaws to elect 2 delegates and 2 alternates. These persons serve a 2-year term. Every communicant in good standing who is 21 years old or older is eligible to serve in this capacity. Our bylaws stipulate that nominations should happen from the floor at this meeting, and so I will open the floor and ask if there are any nominations. Beck? Let's see. Okay, so Sarah is willing to serve. I see Bobby's hand. I'm sorry? Brenda McKinney. Brenda, are you willing to serve? Okay, all right. Okay, Brenda McKinney. I see Bill Hawkins' hand. Catherine Conger, are you willing to serve? Okay. Okay, great. All right. Do I see any more hands? I think we need one more for sure. Anybody? Any thoughts? The movement of the Spirit? Okay, so thank you. Great question. So basically, a diocesan delegate and alternates are encouraged to attend the convocation meetings, which lately have been on Zoom, but before that, take place at Church of the Redeemer at 2:00. I don't even think it's every month. Is it, Marie? Maybe about once a quarter, something like that. That meeting lasts about an hour and a half tops. And then you need to go to the Diocesan Convention. And oftentimes they have like a leadership day, which is not required, on a Friday. Again, not required, but available. And then on Saturday. So you're going to give up a Saturday in October, November time frame is typical. And so that's what that looks like. The convention was here this year, so I think that means it's probably at Trinity Cathedral next year, that kind of thing. Yeah, piece of cake. Anybody else? Oh, there's got to be somebody who would love to do that. It's fun. I mean, we're a fun table. Let's just say that. Okay. Thank you. John, are you willing to serve? Great. Great. Oh. Okay. All right. You can't see it. I'm going to call them out for you in just a second. Yes. Okay. And are there any nominations or a motion to close? A motion to close from Al. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. The motion passes. Okay. So here's what you need to do. Vote for 1 or 2. I mean, there's room for 2 on your ballot, right? And the way it works is the top 2 vote getters will be the delegates, and the next two highest vote getters will be the alternates. And I'll tell you, this was an unusual year for us, but because the delegates ended up able to go to both conventions, but it's typical that the alternates, somebody has to do something out of town for work. So anybody could end up serving, and that's great. So, all right, the names are Sarah Ruggles, Brenda McKinney, Catherine Conger, John Wagner. Okay? Vote for up to 2. Vote for up to 2. Okay. All right. Any remaining ballots, or is there anybody? Okay, take your time. If I need to call it out, again, raise your hand. If you need to hear it because you can't see it, just raise your hand and I'll call it out. Okay? Okay. All right. Anybody left? Okay. Going once, going twice. All right. They're off to count the ballots. So let me scoot this back again. Okay. I want to say thank you to the delegates and alternates who have just completed their 2-year term. So the vacancies that we are just now filling with this election. The delegates have been John Wagner and Allison Hittner. I know I saw Allison. Yep, thank you. And the alternates have been Frank Boigno and Barbara Ellis. So thank you for your service in 2020 and 2021. Okay. Oh, and by the way, our delegates and alternates who are serving now at the middle of their term, who have 1 more year to go, the delegates are Beck Sullivan and Jason Cheek, and the alternates are Margaret Boigno and Brad Klutz. So thank you also for serving. Okay. At each annual meeting, we receive reports on the state of the parish. There are written reports in your agenda document there, including the sort of statistical update on the front cover, a treasurer's report submitted by our treasurer, Bill Hartzell, also a written report from Kurt Cummings, the chair of our St. Peter's Family Endowment. Bob James submitted a written report from our outreach advocates, and I included a number of bulleted items under a printed rector's report there for you. And we'll have several verbal reports. And so at this time, I would like to call upon our treasurer, Bill Hartzell, if he would come forward and share anything he would like to share.
In your handout, you have a summary of our income statement last year, forecast for this year, and our estimated budget for next year. As I've noted, the information is very preliminary since we don't have all the pledges in, and we're still finalizing actual results for this year. We did have a revenue based on the forecast slightly below last year, and our expenses higher this year than last year. Of course, last year, a lot of things shut down, and during the course of this year, we've started opening things up again, so our expenses are starting to get back to normal. I've also noted in our balance sheet the cash balances, and you can see that we had a drop in the level of cash and investments that we had, and I have noted that we had two big expenditures during this year. One, the roof on this part of the building. We didn't touch the education wing, but the rest of the building was re-roofed. And then, of course, the new columbarium. We spent a sizable amount of money on that. And with the expenditure in 2020, that was a $132,000 investment. I would encourage you, with the time that we have left in this year, still plenty of opportunity to send in your contributions for this year. And for those of you that sort of crunch itemized deductions, there's time to do prepaid pledges for this year, which will go on this year's taxes, but it has to be received by us this year, and then you'll get credit next year. But indicate that on your check. And then lastly, if you haven't submitted a 2022 pledge card, I encourage you to do so. It really does help us plan for the next year in terms of what sort of revenue base we're working with. So thank you to those of you who have already done that. I encourage those of you that haven't to do so. Are there any questions? Hearing none.
Beck will talk about that during her report.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Bill. Don't leave quite yet. I want to present Bill just a token of gratitude from St. Peter's. Bill is completing his term as treasurer, past 3 or more. And this was the second time around. And so we are deeply grateful for your expertise and your fidelity to this role. I mean, I get to see this firsthand. I mean, sometimes I'm leaving here at night and Bill is here. In fact, this week, I witnessed that. And just, you have been a great asset to our leadership at this parish. Thank you very much. Michael Coward will be considered by the Vestry at its December meeting. The Vestry elects the clerk and the treasurer of the parish, but he has agreed to serve as treasurer of St. Peter's going forward. And so I'll make that announcement as far as the notes here. Okay, all right. Is that, oh, good. Okay. Okay, all right. So I'll go ahead and announce the delegates to serve the next 2-year terms will be Catherine Conger and Sarah Ruggles. The alternates will be John Wagner and Brenda McKinney. Thank you all four for agreeing to serve. Okay, let's see. I want to, at this point, call on our junior warden, Beck Sullivan, and ask if she would like to make a report. Okay. We're going to do just fine with the time.
I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you all for showing up. We only need about an hour of the whole parish's time a year to get our business done. And how many of you have served on Vestry before? If you have, raise your hand. So you know how it is right here just before the meeting, and you're starting to tick off. And so you've made a difference already by just showing up. So I just want to say thank you for that so much. Your presence is a present. Your presence is a present. And speaking of making gifts to the church, Gary and John, how about that smooth segue? Was that good? So update on the pledge drive for 2022. October 28th was our first Sunday where we opened the pledge drive. So that was 6 weeks ago. So we're in week 6. And every Thursday, Sue, our parish administrator at 10 a.m., gives to clergy a report. I'm trying to keep in front of me. I've never done this with a mask before. It's going to be a challenge, Kyle. Just you wait. And so we track from that first week where we were last year. And so I'll start with where a little bit of a breakdown from 6 weeks ago. Right now, we have 139 pledges in. We got 5 in last week. Those 5 households, you know who you are, so thank you for making a difference there. The 139 represents 83% of last year's number. Does that make sense? So it represents 83% of last year's number where we were to date last year. Our pledge total right now is $570,640, which is less than our budget for last year. To break it down a little bit more, we have new pledges for 2022, 10 of them, and they total $10,180. The total increases in a pledge amount to date, we have 62 pledge cards there, and that equates to $67,820. We have 61 pledges that remained the same from last year, and that is $187,390. We have 6 households who decreased their pledge, and that's a loss of about $6,000. Our average pledge is $4,105, just so you know, and those that are interested in these things. And the median pledge is $3,000. So if you're tracking where we were at the end of the year last year to now, for 2021 this year, we had a total of 166 pledges. And you remember at the beginning, I told you right now, we're at 139. So if you read the e-blast, Father Furman's note from last Friday, he said, so far, so good, but we're not finished yet. So our vitality really depends on the people sitting here to be faithful to show up and to be faithful with your promise to contribute. So as Bill said, we will continue to take pledge cards in, and they're actually right back there at the back. And Father Furman mentions that every Sunday, that they're right back there at the back. In case you lost mine like I did, mine I found under a stack of Medicare enrollment mail. And I think December's coming up, isn't it, Loretta? Yes. So if you don't have one, please pick one up on your way home. The other little bit that I get to talk about is fun stuff. And that is a little bit about our parish life. It's in the bulletin, but I wanted to hit some highlights from what's there. The men's group remained active all year. They met outside. We had a parish picnic at the end of May. Our outdoor gatherings for children and youth continued. Easter eggs, the fall festival, Sunday fun days. SPY came inside and had a 12-and-a-half-hour Christmas in July. We had our first symposium, which I thought was really neat. It's a sharing of life stories. We've got some really cool people that are in this parish. And lastly, I'm so lucky to finish up with 2 more comments. We had a miraculous return to this stage right here of St. Peter's Players with a miracle worker. For those of you that missed that, it was incredible. And lastly, for those who are older than I am, you can pull out your phones and update your phone. And if you're my age, then you mark your calendar with a pen. But we are hoping to have a parish retreat weekend, March 4th through the 6th at Canoga.
Good. Thank you. All right, good. Don't leave. And wait, I said don't leave. You can hear me. So in Thanksgiving for your service as junior warden this year. Okay. I'll now call on our senior warden, Kyle Conger, to give a report. Thank you.
All right, Beck's a better public speaker than I am, so forgive me for trying to follow her very well. We did not coordinate our sections, but you know what Beck said was your presence is a present, right? And I'll start off, I'm going to read a quote. This is an Advent devotional book. It's called The Harpooner by Thomas Mackenzie. Life is not about doing great things for God. Most of life is simply about being present, waiting upon the Lord, and responding when called. This is what it means to be a harpooner. So that's it's a great thing that I read, and it just stuck in my head, so I wanted to share that with you all. That's been a lot of what I think vestry service, stepping forward in the church, is us being present and then stepping forward when called. So I appreciate everybody who's done any of that this year, including the rest of our vestry. Our staff is amazing. All of that is everything that I'm thankful for as a member for St. Peter's, and specifically as senior warden this last year. It has really given me a great perspective on the church and all the work that everybody does. Just getting into my report, I'll be as brief as I can. St. Peter's, continues to be a safe place. I can confidently say that we've not been a source of transmission, and I appreciate everybody's patience as we have figured out how to adapt and remain a safe place first and foremost, while handling all of the challenges that COVID continually throws at us, even as we continue forward through all of this. So I appreciate all of you being here and working with us through all those adaptations. As we've learned to adapt, we've kind of successfully brought back a lot of the things that were pre-COVID activities, although slightly different. So we have Sunday school again with masks in place. We have in-person worship, but we still do online streaming. We have acolytes and chalice bearers again, and we've returned to the rail with intinction. Everything slightly different, but everything working to get back to normal so that you all can know church as you do. All of that I'll wrap together to say this is a really resilient parish, and we will find a way forward. Lastly, with your generous support in both time and talents, we've made some significant improvements. Bill was talking about them a little bit. So we replaced the roof that over the main portion of the church. We've built a new columbarium. We painted the education wing, and we're, with the help of Bill Hawkins, we are going to retire the portable soon, regain some parking spaces, and improve kind of the rear aesthetic of our building. So there's many, many other things that the facilities team just does on a routine basis that I'm grateful for. Twist has been leading that for a long time. So all of those things to say thank you, and appreciate all the time.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. And as a token of gratitude from the parish for your service, we want to pass along that gift. Good. I realized I neglected earlier. I thank the outgoing vestry members, but I would like to ask all the members of the vestry present to please stand, because I left out our Midler class here. So Lindsay Johnson, Jennifer Cheek, Nathan Search, Dot Kloss, Dexter Goodwin, and of course I mentioned Reese and Bobby, who are seniors and freshmen all over again, right? And April Purvis, who was behind Kyle, and I didn't see you just then. Anyway, thank you all for your service. And Melissa Hawkins, yes, thank you, Melissa, also. That's great. I just want to say a few things, maybe some clarifying comments about the numbers on the front of your agenda, and then I plan to remain pretty brief here, but well, here's the thing about membership. Each year I just sort of tack on the next line, and you can see that maybe one of the best pieces of news this year is that we baptized 8 new Christians and welcomed them into the household of God. I'm looking at the last line on the left-hand side of the front cover. We had 16 folks transfer in. Nobody sort of reactivated who was in some inactive status. We have had 11 deaths and 7 active transfers out, a net gain of 6. Now that is a little bit deceptive, okay? Because let me just give you a couple of examples. Shelley has moved to Michigan. Well, her paperwork has not gone through yet. We know she's going to be a transfer out, but it just hasn't happened yet. Bill and Sandy Hemphill moved to Texas. So we've had people move away, but the only way to leave the fellowship of this church is to die or transfer your letter. If you just kind of fade, you remain in our database, and we, with all our love, and you might be inactive, but you'd never get purged from these roles. I mean, I say that as an act of grace, is the way we think about these things. So that membership number is overstated right now. Okay, just you need to know when you take a look back up top at the final column, well, not top, middle of the page, 2021, right-hand column, 628 total active members. That is an overstated number. And we're going to go through and do a little more active discernment about, like, for example, in the online directory, we got some folks there who've just not been active for a while. So you'll be noticing some changes probably in the first quarter of next year with the online directory, where we try to get a truer picture. And y'all just got to know this is complicated, because we are receiving pledge cards from people I haven't seen, literally have not seen in 2 years, but they still consider themselves promise-making, gift-giving members of St. Peter's. And so I just say it's harder to run a church now than it was 2 years ago, because there's a lot more gray, and we're doing our best with that. But we will always err on the side of inclusivity at this church. We will. That's the way we want to err if we err. In terms of average Sunday attendance, the perfectly honest answer is that I finally sat down last night to try to piece something together that would make a little bit of sense. But truly, the first part of the year, I mean, it was all online in January. It went to these very modest-sized gatherings, through the spring. Things started picking up, and we thought we were all done, when I went away in June on sabbatical, and that was a mistake, of course, again. But here's what I've done. I've taken the last 15 weeks, the last 15 Sundays, so that takes us back to August 22nd. So basically kind of back to school until, well, didn't count today, of course, but up through last Sunday. And the average Sunday attendance that we're seeing at the 8:30 service right now is 52 during those weeks, okay? And the average attendance that we're seeing at the 10:30 service for those 15 weeks is 104. Now, if you go back and subtract the bishop's visit, which was huge, and the baptism the week before, which was very large, then the average at the 10:30 is more like 93. If you add together the 52 and the 104, you come up with 156. And that's about 60% of the attendance when it was all normal. We had reached 260 as our average attendance. So that's about 60% of where we were. Every Sunday we seem to have, we look at our peak live views on Facebook. Those are the people who are watching in the moment, so to speak. And that average is around 21 for these 15 weeks. 21 households. I don't know what to do with that. If we count 21, or if you figure there are probably a couple of people watching, maybe decide what you want to decide. It doesn't really matter. There are YouTube views that I go and look about a week later to see how many people went to YouTube, because I know we have some people who are not Facebook people, and they watch it on YouTube, and that has averaged 21, which surprised me. I didn't think it was quite that much, but for the last 15 weeks. And anyway, there is an online contingent that is hard to exactly quantify, but we know there are people who join us that way every Sunday. And then I think some other people who join that way sporadically. But it has become an important part of the life of the church. And I think it's awesome for those who are homebound. And I think it's awesome for those who are out of town and feel so connected to their parish that they want to tune in when they're out of town. And like every pastor in America and around the world, I hope that doesn't become a crutch for people who are able to safely arrive in person. As kind of our preacher talked about today, we, among all the world religions, Christianity is the incarnational one. We're the ones that say, people matter. God became human. Matter matters. Stuff matters. Being together. So I hope we'll just always keep an accent there. And that is not to disparage anybody who tunes in online. I'll just say this. I think I can just say this in an anonymous kind of way. But last year, we received an enormous check in the mail from somebody who only watches online. And they said, sounds to me like y'all need a new organ. I mean, it was, it was rocket fuel, y'all. And I say that with the deepest gratitude that somebody's leaning in and saying, I can make a difference. I think we can make a difference here. So I want to highlight that. Anyway, that gives you a little bit about the attendance numbers, the membership numbers. The thing I will say is I believe we have seen over the last 18 months, 2 years, whatever you want to define, unusually higher amount of people either leaving or just kind of fading back. And we seem to be seeing a little bit of an unusually large spike in the number of new people entering in. So we're in a place of flux. And part of what is important for a healthy and vital church to do in a time of flux is to make sure that we are welcoming and incorporating new persons and saying, yeah, welcome home. You're here. You're one of us now. And so that's going to be really important to us in these weeks and months to come. So I like to hold that up for your awareness. In terms of planning, the thing that in our staff meetings, we've kind of come to this rubric, I have to use prayer book language, instructions, the italics. And our rubric has become something like this. Let's just plan as if everything was usual, okay? And this is the hard part. Number one, we have to be willing to be disappointed if it doesn't work out. And number two, we have to be willing to pivot and come up with something different. And so that has been definitive how we've conducted the best of our ability. We are absolutely committed to continue investing in the ministries with children and youth at St. Peter's, and we have to be. We have to keep doing that. Even if we have a small turnout, we got to keep doing it. This pandemic is going to hasten the demise of many congregations. There are those whose nose is above the waterline and those whose nose is below the waterline. And we need to continue being as you are. And with I'm so heartened by the pledge drive because it's your way of saying, we're still in. We're in for this. Let's go. And parishes with that spirit will be the ones that pull through this. And those who react in fear and resignation will not make it. It's going to be, I think the next couple of years will be very, very telling across the broader, across the broader church. So let's just be attentive to what is emerging, and see what that life looks like, and keep experimenting, and keep just doing our best with what God has gifted us already. I did want to come back around and mention about this rocket fuel gift. The one number, I think I put it in my report, that I want you to note is that since when we had this meeting last December, our reserve fund for the organ replacement was at $10,000. And today that line item is at 80,000. Okay, now, that was not just that one gift. There have been other gifts. Some of you, God bless you, make regular gifts to the organ fund. That's kind of become a thing here. So I used to have a thank you note that went out for the discretionary fund. Now, if you give a gift to the organ fund, I have a special thank you note you'll receive. But I do believe that, our vision 2 years ago was that we were going to try to wrap a variety of legitimate capital needs into one campaign, right? And it was going to include everything from cradle to grave, literally. It was going to be education rooms enlarged and improved from nursery on up. It was going to be the grave, the columbarium. It was going to include worship life and the organ. All that was going to be one big thing. And then we got bumped around a couple of times, and then the next thing, the pandemic hit. And so we've had to obviously appropriately step back. But I do believe the next important, urgent, and attainable goal for St. Peter's is to replace that outdated digital organ. And so I expect you'll hear more from us. I know Craig, I don't know if Craig's here this afternoon, but Craig has been talking to several vendors and trying to get us some benchmark things to pay attention to. And I hope that we'll have more on that before too long to just kind of see where we can go. Marion, did you have a comment or a question about that? Oh, yes. Yes. Thank you. I know that it is a challenge, and there are so many ways that Craig has improvised his way around things that don't function the way they should exactly, and I am grateful for that. Yes. So that's good. Finally, so that's a little bit about that. I want to also just express my gratitude to the staff team members. This year we said goodbye to Danielle Morrison back in about March, and we welcomed Sue Dobrzinski as our parish administrator at that time in March. And so Sue is with us on Mondays through Thursdays. Julia Luciano continues to serve as our parish secretary. Julia is here Wednesdays through Fridays. Laura Lipscomb is our director of youth ministry. And I know I saw her earlier. You're sitting down. Okay. And our technology expert, one of our technology experts, Jan Rhodes, is our coordinator of children and family ministries. And Craig Peepo, our organist and choir master. Kathy Church continues to be she's watching the kids, nursery coordinator. Marie Cope, our associate priest. And I always like to mention Mike Burdine, who's not technically a staff member, but I think of him as a staff member because he shows up often in the dark. I caught him. At least I saw his car this morning. He was cleaning first thing this morning before the rooster crowed here at St. Peter's. And anyway, I'm so grateful to this group of people to perform ministry with you. So I want to say thank you to you all. With that, let me just pause and see if you have any questions or comments. Marie? Good. Thank you. Thank you. Good. Any other? Thank you for helping me remember that. Yes. Anybody? Any other questions or comments before we conclude our business? Okay. All right. Hayne. Thank you, Hayne. Yes. Good. Anybody else? Okay. Good. All right. Well, Kyle has an important piece of news. All right.
All right. It was very close. It was like there's only one vote separating good from bad. All right, so the better chili was number 12. All right, and we're on.
Good. Thank you. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you to everybody who prepared chili today. It was nice being back in that room together and enjoying some delicious chili. Jan.
I want to say thank you to everybody in the teachers. They have changed plans, adapted, switched again, and given time and effort that we never have how much they give to our children. So thank you so much to all our Sunday school teachers. If you are a peacekeeper or you are a storyteller or a leader, and any state of involvement, I thank you very much.
Good. Thank you. Good. I guess we've just barely gone over, well, no, we haven't, actually. We're still under an hour. Okay, so we're going to get out early. But that just makes me think a little bit, Jan, that what I was saying a few moments ago. All our promises matter, our pledges, our gifts, and our service. And if you would like to contribute in some tangible way, there are so many different ways to sign up right now and help. And we need people who will help pull together teams to provide. We're looking forward to providing hot meals again to families or individuals coming out of the hospital, as opposed to the frozen freezer approach. But we need teams of people to do that. We need teams of people to help, with hospitality when it comes to our wine and cheese receptions or my welcome class and various things like that. There's so many different ways in which you can just raise your hand and we will find a good fit for you and include you in some of the, it's the African proverb, many hands make light work. And so that is where our heart is, but I'm also not a guy that particularly likes to pick up and, be pushy about things. So I'm not likely to pick up the phone and push you too hard unless we get really desperate. But I love welcoming people who say, here's an example. Emily Shagel raised her hand and said, I'll help lead the bereavement guild so that we know we have teams of people doing the receptions after the funerals. Such an important pastoral ministry. And we needed somebody who would just kind of coordinate that. And so there are all kinds of opportunities. Please don't be shy. And you don't even have to tell me. Any one of the Vestry members, will be able to take your offer and know how to incorporate that into whatever adventures we find ourselves in 2022. So God bless you for being the church here at St. Peter's. And go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.